fine, thank you.
You're welcome to the point.
Thank you.
With you today, we are going to talk about Cameroon Anglophone literature. You are an icon in the literary world of Cameroon. What assessment can you make of the situation of literature in the country today?
Oh, well, I want to say that Cameroon literature in English is a corpus of literature that is part of the national literature, so to speak. But because it is written in another language, and that language, it's a minority in Cameroon, so I have taken upon myself to crusade it, to make it to be known, not just within Cameroon, but outside Cameroon. My assessment is that this literature is thriving. For a number of years now, there have been several articles, several debates, several arguments, all talking about the paucity of Anglophone Cameroon literature, that it is sparse. We don't have enough writers. We don't have enough literary texts. I can now say without any iota of doubt that that is not true. The corpus for Cameroon literature in English is huge. Writing is taking place now. It's ongoing. We now have several publishers. Once upon a time, you had Edition Claire, the sole publisher in Cameroon, publishing only Francophone texts. Through you could say, a misstep, they published Sanki Maimo's Sobang and the Soothsayer. That was just because he had a personal relationship with the publisher. So, most Anglophones didn't have an avenue for their works to be published. Eventually, Sanki Maimo published in Nigeria in 1959. That was the first Anglophone Cameroon text, I Am Vindicated. Then Jedida Shere, the pen name for Henechila, she wrote Promise. It became the first text for Anglophone Cameroonian women. And when she wrote that, of course, she didn't know whether she was the first or not. I can now say that because I have done my research. A lot of writers later who wanted to write had to self-publish, had to create publishing firms. We have Bumako, but now there are many. We have Design Publishing House, we have Patron Publishers, we have Langa, we have Miraclaire. Edition Claire finally started publishing in English, literature in English. So we have all these avenues. Then comes self-publishing. At the time you needed a printing press to publish. Now with your computer printer you could publish. So you have, even in the West, you have Author House, Lulu.com. These publishers publish very well. The only downside about that is that, of course, there's no scrutiny in terms of what is being published. So if you don't edit well, then the book also doesn't come out well. Cut a long story short, Anglophone Cameroon literature is thriving. The works are out there. The Edu Art Awards for Literature, launched in 2007, has even proven that, because we have, every now and then, we have entries. More than 30 works for each genre. So it is thriving, the literature is on, and I can say the debate on saying that, oh, there's not enough literature, that's not true. The challenge now is dissemination. How can we make this to go out there?
So you are saying there is Cameroon Anglophone literature?
Yes, there is a lot of it, and I just can. Some of the names that come to my mind, if I go to the pioneers, you have Bole Butake, Linus Asong, Batebi Song, Babila Mutia, Mofu, Footprints, the lady who wrote Footprints, I've forgotten her name now, Nola Lembong. If you come to the younger generation now, you have Dibusi Tande for poetry with Zerem Bafe, Leonie Monono, Rosemary Ekoso. The names are many. I could add my name, the Joyce Ashuntantang, and it just goes on and on. The writing is taking place, is thriving. You know, how can we put this in the hands of readers? How can we make this literature to be read even in Cameroon by the Francophones, so that we can read? It needs to be translated. Bole Butake, Linus Asong, the writing, Crown of Thorns, we need it in French. We need for this literature to move. That is the problem.
Now you see there is Cameroon Anglophone literature. What distinguishes this literature from the rest of the literature in the Francophone side of Cameroon?
Okay, I'll tell you one thing. The first thing, of course, is the language.
Yeah.
It's written in English. It's original literature.
Yeah.
It's original literature because it is marked by the sociocultural factors of that region. You have, if you take a text of Francophone literature, the trends that have directed the literature there are different than the trends that have that have influenced this literature. For example, a lot of Anglophone Cameroon writers have been influenced by their Nigerian counterpart, not the Francophone counterpart. You had writers like Ferdinand Oyono, Mongo Betty, who had written before.
Yeah.
Okay, but you will be surprised that these are not really the role models for Anglophone Cameroonians. The role models are Mongugi, Chunya Chepe, the Wole Shoinkas and stuff. So I think that the socio-cultural climate is different. Another thing is that English for Anglophone Cameroonians right now is almost like an ethnic mother tongue. So, of course, you know that an Anglophone is not necessarily somebody who speaks English. It's somebody who is from this region. Yeah. So your grandmother in the village who cannot speak English is an Anglophone. Yeah. Although the word Anglophone means English. So there are certain, we have our history here, our national history, or regional history, so to speak, from the times of the German through West Cameroon to South Cameroon, the things that concern us here, the fact that we were colonized by the British has its own influence, the way we are growing here. So it is not because of just the creative way in which these writers write. It is more original marker. This is writing from here. Then we are also defined by our minority status. Yeah. That affects the literature. The way we look at things. When you are part of the majority, the way you look at things is different because you're writing from another perspective. In fact, Bate Bissau believes that every Anglophone Cameroon writer must write from the position of their hostage minority. That is from where they're seeing the prism through which they're seeing the world.
Yeah, I was going to ask where this Cameroon Anglophone literature has drawn its inspiration. Where is it from?
I think that I've just told you. I think the minority status is part of the inspiration. When you're cornered, you have a story to tell, a story of your survival, a story of your successes, a story of your identity. Because what is happening is that you're almost trying to confront yourself. Who am I? Who is this entity locked between populous Nigeria and populous Francophone Cameroon? It's like you're hanging in there being squeezed and you're saying, I got to survive, I got to speak. And I remember when I had the opportunity of interviewing Chinua Achebe, and I said, you know, I was talking to him about Anglophone Cameroon writers, and he says, you're lucky. When you have that kind of situation, this peculiar situation where it's as if you're being cornered from every angle, you have a story to tell from that position. It's a position of pressure because it's a position that says that I am here. You're trying to shout out. Nigeria is a very populous country. What, 50 million? Then Francophone Cameroon almost doubles our size, and we are hidden there in between. That has affected our publicity. You know, in every sphere, even with films, Cameroonians are trying, but the sheer volume coming from Nigeria is no match. It's overwhelming. The same with Francophone Cameroon. So Anglophone Cameroon writers are writing. Nigeria churns those things out. They have their Chepes, their Chimamanda Adichies. It's as if we're not having a chance. What we're trying to write here, you have the Mongo Betties, the Ferdinand Oyonos, they've been writing, they're buffeting us on this corner. So the challenge, first of all, it's almost like, who am I? Because these two regions near us are choking our sense of identity. And if you're not strong, you just follow one of them. So the Anglophone writer has his or her job cut out. It's a job to fight for their identity, to project themselves. And not just projecting themselves, but projecting themselves in a way that they can still be unique, because it's easy to just copy. So it is, you would say, that is what makes them distinct. That is what challenges them. That is what brings out the juice in them. And I think that maybe there was a time that they could say, well, we are not known, let me just sit quiet. But no, they're fighting back, and they've done so well for themselves because they're not copying. They're not copying. They have their own distinct voice. You know, the way we write, put a little bit of French here because that is our reality. We are the most eclectic group in Africa because we have all these influences. There's Pidgin, there's French, there's English. That's what makes us different from the Nigerian writer. That's what makes us different from the Kenyan writer. So we have this richness to give the world, and we're beginning to do so.
Now, looking at Anglophone writers, is there a message that cuts across their works?
Most of them write from this position, this minority position. Yeah. So a lot of them decry the corruption, the marginalization, but the younger writers are beginning to talk about other things. There's the world out there, you know, there's the influence of globalization. So that is coming into the story. So the themes are getting diverse. Yeah. We have some writers, there's a poetry collection, Floodgates, by a physician, Bertrand Forte. He's in the United States. That's all poetry from his experience as a medical doctor in the emergency room. So that is different. He is Anglophone Cameroonian, but that poetry, he's just talking as a witness to pain. He's a medical doctor who confronts pain, confronts trauma every day, and he's not just a healer, he's a witness, and he witnesses via poetry. That's the way he comes, he deals with that. So they're doing different things. My poetry collection, A Basket of Flaming Ashes, yes, it deals with the realities of Cameroon, but I'm writing from a position of what I call my self-exile. I'm out in the United States, nobody asked me to go there, I go there, but I miss home. It's as if I'm locked in this place. I write from that position of distance, from that position of memory, recalling memory. I'm anchored to the sounds of memory. So my poetry has a certain nostalgia that the poet writing inside Cameroon doesn't have. When I sit and think of Boya and I write a poem about Boya, I'm writing it from that position of loss, something that I'm trying to recall, something that I'm trying to attach to. My sense of identity is more acute than the person who is here. The way I even think of even Yaoundé, the Anglophone Cameroonian sitting here in Boya may not think of Yaoundé fondly, because when they think of Yaoundé, they think of centralization, everything there, the government ministers, and that just, there's nothing good to write about. But when I am away from Cameroon, even a Bikutsi song gives me a sense of home.
Yeah, but there must be a message that is peculiar in all of these writings.
No, it cannot be. That would be terrible, because you can have one message. You can have one message. But if I can say that one thing that distinguishes Anglophone Cameroon writers, and it's not just Anglophone Cameroon writers, it's African writers, is that they write with a sense of responsibility to the people. Yeah. That's what differentiates the African writer from the Western writer. Our writers are our spokespersons. We expect them to represent the people. So when Anglophone Cameroon writers write, they write with that sense of responsibility. It's an opportunity that if they use to write about something stupid, something that is not relevant, then we think it's a wasted opportunity. So they write as a representative, they write as spokespersons. It is a wonderful thing, but I don't think it's a hole that we want to place them there forever. But it's a wonderful thing because we have issues. It's still a very small population that can write and speak. So when they do, it better be for the common good.